All right, fight fans. Welcome back to another explosive episode of the Final Bell Boxing Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Hastings, and today, we're going to do something a little different. We're stepping away from the modern heavyweight chaos for a minute and taking a deep dive into the life, career, and legacy of a true British boxing legend, Ricky Hatton. And if you haven't already, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications because you do not want to miss this episode. Ricky Hatton, the Hitman, Manchester's pride, a fighter whose heart, determination, and personality transcended the sport. But to really understand him, we have to go back, way back to his roots. Let's talk about his childhood, his family, and the early life experiences that forged the man who would become one of Britain's most beloved fighters. Ricky grew up in Manchester, a working-class city with a heart as tough as the streets themselves. His upbringing was anything but easy, and like many great fighters, the challenges he faced at home and in his neighborhood shaped him into someone resilient, hungry, and determined. Ricky was born on October 6, 1978 in Stockport, but the broader area of Manchester became his playground and battlefield. His family was close-knit, but life wasn't handed to them on a silver platter. Ricky's father, Ray, was a big influence in his early life, instilling values of hard work and perseverance, while his mother, Julie, was the steady, nurturing force, keeping the household together and supporting Ricky and his siblings through thick and thin. One thing that stands out about Ricky's childhood was his energy and competitiveness. From an early age, he had this fire in him. You could see it in how he ran around the streets of Manchester, in the way he played football and other sports, and most importantly, in the way he gravitated toward boxing. Ricky's first exposure to boxing wasn't glamorous gyms or trainers with huge reputations. No, it was his local clubs, his mates on the streets, and the Manchester fight scene that gave him a real sense of toughness. There's a famous story about Ricky as a kid. He and his friends would set up makeshift rings in the park, using whatever they could find, chalk lines, old mats, anything, and just spar with each other. That was Ricky's first taste of the discipline, focus, and thrill that boxing would later define his life by. But it wasn't all easy. Growing up in Manchester in the late 70s and 80s meant dealing with economic challenges, neighborhood rivalries, and sometimes just learning how to navigate a world that didn't hand success to anyone for free. Ricky often talks about how boxing gave him direction. It wasn't just about punching. It was about structure, mentorship, and finding a path that could elevate him beyond the streets he grew up on. As he got older, Ricky joined the famous Hatton Gym. Not that it was his own family gym at first, but the local gyms that nurtured raw talent in Manchester. Coaches quickly noticed something special about him. He had speed, power, and perhaps more importantly, heart. There's this incredible story from one of his early trainers. Ricky was training for hours, even when the other kids were tired. He would do extra rounds, extra conditioning, and never complain. Even at 11 or 12 years old, this kid was showing a hunger that set him apart. That hunger would become the hallmark of his career. Ricky's amateur career began to take shape around this time. He joined a local amateur club and started entering tournaments. Now, I have to tell you, the amateur scene in Manchester is no joke. It's competitive, gritty, and a place where only the toughest survive. Ricky wasn't the tallest kid in the room, but he had something that couldn't be taught: heart, determination, and the ability to read opponents almost instinctively. His style even then was aggressive but smart. He liked to close distance, apply pressure, and overwhelm opponents. That would later become his signature style in the professional ring, but even as a kid, you could see the seeds of the Hitman. Family played a huge role during this time. Ricky often credits his parents for keeping him grounded. His father encouraged discipline, his mother encouraged education, and both supported him through countless hours in the gym and at tournaments. Boxing can be a lonely sport, especially for kids growing up in challenging environments, but Ricky had a support system that believed in him. And those lessons of loyalty, resilience, and focus are threads you see throughout his career. By the time Ricky was in his mid-teens, he was already gaining a reputation in the Manchester boxing scene. People would talk about his relentless work ethic, his natural power, and his charisma. Ricky wasn't just another fighter, he had the ability to make people stop and watch. Coaches would say, "This kid isn't just good, he's got something the other kids don't." And for those of us who followed him as he rose through the ranks, that early promise was impossible to ignore. Ricky also had influences outside the gym. He idolized British fighters who came before him, people like Frank Bruno and Nassim Hamd. He studied their fights, learned from their styles, and adapted their lessons into his own unique approach. But he didn't just mimic anyone. Ricky added heart, grit, and his own Manchester spirit into everything he did. And let's be honest, part of what made him so relatable to fans wasn't just his skill, it was his personality. Even as a kid, Ricky had a spark, a charm, and a sense of humor that would later make him a media darling and fan favorite. Now, before we move on to his professional career, I want to emphasize something about Ricky's childhood. This wasn't just a story about a kid learning to punch. It was a story about a boy learning life skills through boxing. Discipline, perseverance, dealing with setbacks, learning to win and lose with grace. All of these lessons came early. And you know what? That's why so many people, young fighters especially, look up to him. Ricky's story proves that your environment doesn't define you. Your work ethic, heart, and choices do. And you know, it wasn't all rosy. Ricky had his fair share of struggles. School wasn't always easy, peer pressure was real, and the streets of Manchester could be tough. Boxing became his escape, but it also taught him responsibility. He learned early on that talent alone wasn't enough. You had to train, commit, and stay focused. And those early lessons, those formative years in Manchester gyms, would echo throughout his career. By the late 1990s, Ricky was ready to make the jump to professional boxing. But even before that, he had already inspired a generation of young fighters in Manchester. Kids would watch him in the gym, asking for advice, mimicking his footwork, and dreaming of making it big just like Ricky. And that's a theme that will follow him through his entire career, not just fighting for himself, but inspiring others along the way. So as we close this first section, let's recap. Ricky Hatton's childhood and early life weren't handed to him. Manchester shaped him. His family guided him. Boxing gave him direction. His hunger, work ethic, and heart were evident from an early age, and those qualities would carry him from local gyms and amateur tournaments all the way to world championships, global fame, and a lasting legacy. Next, we're going to jump into Section 2, where we explore Ricky Hatton's rise as a professional fighter, his unique style in the ring, his explosive victories, and how he became not just a champion, but a cultural icon for Britain and boxing fans worldwide. You're going to hear stories from his biggest fights, the training, the rivalries, and the moments that made him unforgettable. Stay tuned and remember, if you're enjoying this deep dive, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss the next section of this Ricky Hatton special.
We hope you are enjoying our podcast. If you'd like to help us continue to provide you quality content, we would welcome your generosity. In the comments section, we have a link to make a donation. Every £1 we receive will help us bring you dynamic and reliable sporting content. Thank you in advance for making the effort for us. £1 in isolation is very little, but every pound added together adds up to a substantial contribution to us. So don't be shy, click the link and donate £1 today. Thank you for your support. Now back to the podcast.
Welcome back, fight fans, to the Final Bell Boxing Podcast, the Ricky Hatton special. If you're just tuning in, we've already covered Ricky's childhood, his family, and how Manchester shaped him into the fighter and man he became. Now, it's time to dive headfirst into the part most of you are waiting for. Ricky Hatton, the professional fighter, the rise of the Hitman, and the fights that made him a legend. So let's start at the beginning of his pro career. Ricky turned professional in 1997, and right from the start, you could tell this wasn't just another prospect. He had a style that was unmistakably his own, relentless, aggressive, and full of heart. The Hitman wasn't just a nickname. It was a description of the way he approached every fight. Pressure, pace, and power, that was Ricky's mantra. Early on, Ricky built a reputation in the British domestic scene. He wasn't just winning fights, he was putting on shows. Fans loved him, promoters noticed him, and the buzz around Manchester grew with every bout. His style was exciting. He'd push forward, take risks, and keep throwing punches until his opponent cracked. And here's the thing. While that style looked wild to the untrained eye, Ricky was smart. He knew when to press, when to jab, and how to set traps. That combination of aggression and tactical awareness became his signature. One of his early standout fights was against Iman Maji. Maji was tough, experienced, and a respected name in the UK boxing circuit. But Ricky's relentless pressure and work rate overwhelmed him. Watching the footage, you can see the traits that defined Hatton's career: incredible stamina, an ability to read opponents mid-fight, and the mental toughness to push through even when things got tough. These were skills honed from years of training in Manchester gyms, fighting amateur bouts, and learning from his early coaches. Ricky's rise in the UK scene led to his first major title shots, and this is where things start to get really exciting. He captured the IBF light welterweight title in 2005, defeating Kostya Tshaiu in a fight that shocked a lot of people. Tshaiu was a dominant champion, known for his skill and power, but Ricky brought heart, courage, and the full Manchester punch. That night, Ricky didn't just win a belt, he announced himself to the world. He became a symbol of British boxing pride. But Ricky's story isn't just about victories, it's about style, personality, and charisma. He had this ability to connect with fans like few fighters ever do. Whether it was his bright trunks, hooded entrances, or signature Hatton shuffle, Ricky made people feel part of his journey. That connection turned casual fans into die-hard supporters. He wasn't just fighting opponents in the ring, he was fighting for every fan watching, inspiring a generation of young boxers to chase their dreams. Now let's talk about some of the key fights that defined his career. Ricky's bouts against Paulie Malignaggi, Juan Urango, and Luis Collazo showcased not just his aggression, but his technical growth. Against Malignaggi, he demonstrated an ability to adapt, using pressure but also careful timing to neutralize Malignaggi's speed and movement. Against Urango, Ricky's bodywork was phenomenal. He broke opponents down round after round, showing a surgical approach beneath the relentless pace. And in the Collazo fight, he displayed knockout power combined with the instinct of a fighter who truly understood distance and timing. One of the most talked-about moments of Ricky Hatton's career was his 2007 fight against Floyd Mayweather Jr. Now, let's be real, this was a massive step up. Mayweather was an elite fighter, technically brilliant, almost untouchable in his prime. Ricky came in full of heart and aggression, looking to make a statement. While Mayweather ultimately won, Ricky's performance captured the hearts of fans worldwide. The bravery, the willingness to take risks, and the sheer energy he brought into the ring cemented his status as a fan favorite. It wasn't about the loss, it was about how he fought, and how he carried the hopes of Britain on his shoulders. Ricky's relationship with his trainer, Billy Graham, also deserves a mention. Graham played a huge role in developing Ricky's style, refining his technique, and keeping him mentally sharp. Ricky often credits Graham for teaching him how to balance aggression with strategy, how to know when to throw combinations, and when to set traps. That bond between fighter and trainer is part of what made Ricky's style so unique. It wasn't just brute force, it was calculated heart. Another key component of Ricky's career was his marketing and persona. He was one of the first British boxers to truly embrace personality-driven promotion. His media appearances, interviews, and interaction with fans showed he understood the business side of boxing as well as the athletic side. Ricky made boxing accessible and entertaining without ever losing authenticity. You knew he was genuine, and that's rare in the sport. Let's talk about the technical side of Hatton's style for a moment, because that's something young fighters and fans often overlook. Ricky's hallmark was pressure fighting, staying on top of his opponent, cutting off the ring, and forcing mistakes. His lead hand was constantly active, setting up hooks and uppercuts, while his legs moved in a way that closed distance efficiently. And his stamina, oh man, his stamina, allowed him to maintain an intense pace for 12 rounds. That combination of work rate, technique, and sheer determination made him a nightmare for anyone in the light welterweight and welterweight divisions. Of course, Ricky's career also included some setbacks and challenges, and part of what made him relatable was how he handled them. Losses, injuries, and personal struggles all came into play, but Ricky's ability to bounce back, to train harder, and to keep moving forward is something we can all learn from. Every fighter has highs and lows, but the way Ricky faced adversity, with heart, humor, and humility, added to his legend. And speaking of humor, you can't talk about Ricky without mentioning his charisma outside the ring. Whether it was joking with fans, playful antics in the gym, or cheeky interviews, Ricky made boxing fun and approachable. That personality helped bridge the gap between hardcore fans and casual viewers, making him a household name not just in Manchester, but across the UK and worldwide. By the late 2000s, Ricky had become a global star. He fought in massive arenas, headlined pay-per-view events, and earned millions of fans around the world. But despite the fame, he stayed grounded, never forgetting Manchester, his family, or the gyms that shaped him. That connection to his roots made him one of the most beloved fighters of his generation. And let's not forget the impact Ricky had on British boxing culture. He inspired a generation of kids to lace up gloves, go to the gym, and believe that hard work could take them to the top. Fighters like Kell Brook, Amir Khan, and even some younger British prospects often cite Hatton as a major influence. His combination of accessibility, heart, and professionalism showed aspiring boxers that you could be tough, talented, and relatable at the same time. So to recap this section, Ricky Hatton's professional career was a masterclass in aggression, skill, charisma, and resilience. From his early domestic bouts to world title victories, from thrilling fights against top contenders to his unforgettable battle with Mayweather, Ricky carved out a place in boxing history. He wasn't just a fighter, he was a symbol of hope, inspiration, and Manchester pride. Next, we're going to move into Section 3, where we explore the challenges, setbacks, and personal lessons Ricky Hatton faced outside the ring, including his battles with mental health, his role as a mentor, and the lessons we can all learn from his journey. Stick around, because this is where the human side of the hitman really comes to light. And remember, if you're enjoying this deep dive, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. You don't want to miss a single story from Ricky Hatton's incredible life and career.
We hope you are enjoying our podcast. If you'd like to help us continue to provide you quality content, we would welcome your generosity. In the comments section, we have a link to make a donation. Every £1 we receive will help us bring you dynamic and reliable sporting content. Thank you in advance for making the effort for us. £1 in isolation is very little, but every pound added together adds up to a substantial contribution to us. So don't be shy, click the link and donate £1 today. Thank you for your support. Now back to the podcast.
All right, fight fans, welcome back to the final section of our Ricky Hatton special here on the Final Bell Boxing Podcast. If you've been with us through Ricky's childhood, family life, and professional rise, then you know we've already covered a lot. But now it's time to get real. We're talking about the challenges Ricky faced, the lessons we can all learn from his journey, and ultimately, the incredible legacy he leaves behind. And of course, we want to start by saying that our thoughts, kind wishes, and prayers are with the Hatton family today. Now, Ricky's career wasn't always easy. Like any fighter, he faced setbacks, both in and out of the ring. Injuries were part of the game, but some of the bigger challenges were personal. Ricky has been very open about the pressures of fame, the stress of maintaining a championship-level career, and the mental toll of constantly being in the public eye. And let's be honest, boxing isn't forgiving. Every fight, every press conference, every headline, there's scrutiny everywhere. One of the biggest lessons from Ricky's career is resilience. He experienced tough losses, including his highly publicized bouts against Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. Both were world-class opponents, and while the outcomes weren't what Ricky wanted, the way he carried himself afterwards spoke volumes. He didn't hide, he didn't run from criticism, and he never lost the spark that made fans love him. That's a lesson for all of us. It's not about never falling, it's about how you rise afterward. Off the canvas, Ricky also faced challenges with weight and health after stepping away from active competition. Boxing careers can take a huge toll on the body and mind, and Ricky's journey reminds us that even champions are human. He has spoken candidly about struggles with lifestyle changes, the pressures of retirement, and the journey to find balance outside the ring. And that honesty has inspired so many people because it's relatable. Even the best of the best face real-life struggles. But what really sets Ricky apart isn't just his ability to fight in the ring, it's the way he inspired others outside of it. Over the years, Ricky has taken on roles as a mentor, coach, and promoter. He's worked with young fighters, sharing his experience, his training methods, and perhaps most importantly, his mentality. Ricky teaches that preparation, discipline, and heart are as important outside the gym as they are inside it. His commitment to helping the next generation of fighters is a huge part of his legacy. Let's also talk about what we can learn from Ricky Hatton as individuals, not just as fans of boxing. First, there's the lesson of hard work. From his Manchester gyms to world championship rings, Ricky never cut corners. Second, there's the lesson of courage. Fighting Mayweather, Pacquiao, and other elite fighters required more than skill. It required bravery, self-belief, and willingness to face challenges head-on. Third, there's the lesson of humility. Despite fame, wealth, and international recognition, Ricky never forgot his roots or the people who supported him. And finally, there's resilience. Ricky's life proves that setbacks, both personal and professional, are opportunities to grow, adapt, and keep moving forward. Ricky's impact on British boxing is impossible to overstate. He brought the sport into the living rooms of millions, became a cultural icon, and showed that boxing could be exciting, accessible, and inspiring. Kids growing up in Manchester and beyond watched Ricky fight and thought, if he can do it, so can I, and that spark, that belief, has led to a new generation of British fighters who are carrying the torch forward. Fighters like Kell Brook, Amir Khan, and even the younger stars of today cite Ricky as a key inspiration. Another dimension of Ricky's legacy is the joy he brought to fans. He wasn't just a fighter, he was a showman, a personality, a man who could make people laugh, cheer, and feel connected to the sport. His entrances, his interactions with fans, and his overall charisma created moments that went beyond the fights themselves. That human connection is rare, and it's something Ricky excelled at throughout his career. And speaking of human connection, it's important to remember the family and community support that fueled Ricky. Boxing is often a lonely sport, but Ricky always had people who believed in him, parents, siblings, coaches, and friends. Those relationships provided stability and guidance, and they remain a core part of his story. To the Hatton family, we send our heartfelt thoughts, kind wishes, and prayers as we reflect on Ricky's journey and the incredible mark he's made on the world of boxing. Now, let's talk about the lessons for aspiring fighters and fans. Ricky's career teaches that preparation matters, that heart matters, and that connecting with people outside the ring can be just as important as what you do inside it. Young fighters watching him can see that skill alone isn't enough. You need discipline, focus, and a relentless drive to improve. Fans watching him can see the power of passion and authenticity. Ricky fought for himself, yes, but he also fought for his city, his country, and everyone who believed in him. Ricky's legacy is multifaceted. He's a champion in the ring, a mentor outside of it, and an inspiration to countless people around the world. He showed that boxing isn't just about punches, it's about heart, community, resilience, and character. His influence is felt not only in the gyms of Manchester, but also in the broader world of sport and culture. When people talk about British boxing in the 2000s, Ricky Hatton's name comes up first, and for good reason. And while we celebrate his successes, we also honor his humanity, the struggles, the challenges, and the lessons that make his story so compelling. Ricky Hatton wasn't perfect, but that's exactly what makes him relatable. His journey teaches us that greatness isn't about being flawless. It's about rising each time life knocks you down, staying true to yourself, and inspiring others along the way. So as we bring this Ricky Hatton special to a close, let's remember the full picture. The boy from Manchester, the fighter who became a world champion, the man who inspired generations, and the human being who faced challenges with courage and heart. Ricky's story is one of triumph, struggle, laughter, and perseverance, and it's a story that will continue to resonate for decades. To wrap up, we want to reiterate our thoughts and prayers to the Hatton family. Ricky's journey is a testament to their love, support, and belief in him. And to our listeners, we hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into one of boxing's most iconic figures. Remember to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to keep up with all future episodes of the Final Bell Boxing Podcast. Ricky Hatton taught us about heart, grit, and passion. He showed us that boxing is about more than punches. It's about life lessons, connections, and inspiration. From his early days in Manchester to world championship rings, Ricky remains a beacon for fighters and fans alike. Thank you for joining us for this special tribute. Keep the spirit of the Hitman alive in your own lives, whether you're training in the gym, pursuing your dreams, or supporting those you love. Until next time, fight fans, keep your gloves up, your heart strong, and never forget the lessons from a true legend, Ricky Hatton.